One. Greetings and welcome to another Lango installment of Learning Ghanongga language from Solomon Islands. I'm Peter.
I'm I'm Tyler,
Now we did this one right.
more or less.
Oftentimes I talk for a minute or two and Tyler's like, and I'm Tyler. So
Do you want to take a quick look at that dual thing? See what we can find there?
okay,
Or
yeah. So what I want to see is when is ko at the end of a word. Looking for ko.
and then a space after it, maybe.
Search.
Yeah, jot down some stuff.
There we have betoko. Let's look at. We can change the way this side.
Right. In fact, you can have the left margin there just hanging off the screen. We don't need to see that. That'll do too. That helps a lot. Okay, betoko, and finally, resulting in is how I take that. But that has nothing to do with the dual.
So they went out and put down the net, then found the weights were lying there ashore and not brought. So they weighed the net by trying to round their legs.
Right.
So they went and dropped the nets finally.
Betoko, I think, is going to be so that, resulting in that, or in a way such that.
All right, that seems possible.
No dual meaning here. It's just a different ko.
No dual meaning. Right, let's look and see if we see. We don't see ko at the end of words very often.
Tondo 5-7.
That's a place name. Reiko is its own word. Bako bako is a duplicated word.
Likely.
We're not seeing it.
It would also work to find the meaning of dual. For the you'll need to resize it a bit, but where it says search in the line, under the search criteria, yeah, just north of there. Search in maybe the free translation and look for a word too. So yeah, there.
Well, we still haven't translated a whole bunch.
Yeah, that's right. But we've got a good amount.
We've got Kori for most of these, probably.
Let's just see. So there it's highlighting whole sentences because it just sees it in the free translation, can't break it down any further. The two main villages, Ari Kori, yeah. Anyway, the point for the viewers is that there's many wonderful ways to search for a little piece that whatever piece you're looking for, many places you can.
So we actually never mentioned why we're even searching for this. So what happened is that I was looking through the Roviana dictionary on an unrelated project, and I saw the word Control F. I was looking for the word hia to see if it was a verb, and I saw that right beneath it is the word hiako. Now,
okay.
Hia is to divide or share. Vahia calls to divide or share. Hinia, remember, in is the nominalizer. This is your share, your portion. Hihia is used of planting talo.
It was.
Talo is taro.
Taro.
In Oceanic, it was originally an L. And even in Austronesian, Proto-Austronesian, it was originally an L. But you may recall that L and R merged in Polynesian, maybe before Polynesian, but in Polynesian, L and R have merged as R in most languages. And so if they got it from a language that had R, they would have gotten taro. In Hawaiian, it's kalo because L and R merges R and then R changed to L.
I see.
Anyways, this ko here, I saw 1,000 pairs of talo, and the pairs seem to be an important aspect of the ko, and immediately made me think of kori in Ghanongga, and I wanted to see, is there any evidence that kori works the way that hiako works in Roviana? Looks like no, there's no evidence so far. But we'll keep our eyes peeled just in case.
One of the several thousand things we're trying to figure out.
That's the way it goes, though. You have a bunch of stuff going on. It's okay.
Yep. It's a good way to spend a weekend morning for sure. So let's get back into the story. Where are we? So now it's your turn, said Mekania. Ruruhu carried his spear forward with his arm raised, and the fellow threw at Mekania. Mekania deflected Ruruhu's spear and didn't watch where it fell. Yeah, it was that repeated formula, not watching where it fell. So we get a new sentence. So he speak again, perfective. Ruruhu did. How's that?
I think that I've covered it up, so we're not gonna. Oh, we are in the middle of it.
This paragraph 6 is a really long one.
Well, this sentence here, we can take a little guess.
Yep. Then Ruruhu said again, how's that?
Yeah, I think that's correct. And so Ruruhu spoke again. How now? It's the official translation. I don't think we need to change anything here. It all looks correct. Although this Tugu, oh no, Soga is again. All right, we've got it. Vanigo calls it second person again. You send another one. That's my guess. I'll give you another one, he says.
They're trash talking while hurling spears at each other.
Now we've decided Vani is probably its own thing. Now this ego is a version of, well, actually I'm going to do this differently. So what happens is we know ego is its own thing. Let's double check our lexicon to make sure that ego is indeed its own thing. H-I-J-K. Okay, I is before K. Have we never seen ego yet?
I don't recognize it now.
We've never seen ego.
I mean, I have a pretty strong and well-developed ego. Okay, I found it in my version of the spreadsheet here, my instantiation.
Okay, I'm going to search for ego this way.
Yep.
Ego there.
As parts of words, I think vanigo will be one of them.
Garatigo. Okay, so garatigo is the one we're looking for.
Oh, nice.
And I'm surprised we never saw this before with Garat, because this is from the first story, right?
Yeah.
Let me go back and look at this first story and see how we have this sliced up.
Okie dokie. Paragraph 3, the very last line of 3.
Paragraph 3.
There we go. 4 has begun. Garatigo bites. Yeah, let's go to
sliced up.
Okay.
You go there.
We saw the root garat, but we have not ID'd the suffix. Can you show us? Let's see. Then put your hand inside the hole, and the big claw will nip, and you can then pull it out.
All right. So I knew what it was.
All right.
Obviously, I was looking for ego instantly. I knew. I said I didn't think Vanigo. I thought Vani ego. I revealed already. I thought it's two eyes touching that it deleted. Why was I so certain what ego was? Because I recognize it from Roviana. Of course, the same explanation of all these other great guesses I have. Well, some of the guesses turned out to be pretty bad, but many easy guesses based on Roviana. And I do think that ego is second person singular object agreement.
Ah, will bite you. The claw will nip you.
This is an interesting thing. It's like it will bite you, but then there's the second person pronoun right there. So it should be a subject or something. We can see that the grammar of the storyteller from the story of the clam is different than the other two storytellers. So this is actually we're using flex in a pretty sophisticated way because we're handling different dialectal variants in the same flex file. And this is really where flex is meant for.
That's a situation you'll encounter a lot in languages of
especially if you were going out trying to write Bibles in languages that had never been translated before. What you're going to do is not have a clear idea where the language begins and ends. So usually the Bibles select a variety that is more prominent and they write the Bible based on that. My understanding, by the way, is that the Bible translators, for the large part, aren't going in and translating Bibles anymore. They're assisting with community-initiated projects. And there may be some listeners or viewers may feel that the Bible translators shouldn't be so involved in language conservation because they have like a ulterior motive. They want to convert people. However, I would suggest that if they're doing most of it and almost all the documentation of endangered languages is done by Bible translators. So if you want somebody else to do it, you have to do it. Well, we're doing our best, but Tyler and I don't have the money to fly and visit.
Not
In any
yet.
case, the important point here is I think ego is probably reliably going to be a second
So,
person singular object agreement. And furthermore, that we should note that the grammar here, now Mina is probably going to mean the same across speakers, but here we have, oh, this could also be,
oh, another clause. That could be a clause boundary. It will bite you, and then you can then pull it out. As in that following bit.
I agree. Yeah, that could be.
Okay.
Didn't we already solve Tonai?
Whew. Let's see.
Yeah, when? So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Searching. Tonai. I think Tonai, 5 letters, means
Means
when or
when.
then, and Totonai means then. I don't know that to is going to be a morpheme. We're duplicated likely. Just variant words
I
or related,
agree.
right? What is a morpheme? A meaningful word part for those who have not had the pleasure of taking a linguistics class before.
Let's call this 2sg.obj.
Very good.
It does attach to verbs, but a better way to look at it is whatever it attaches to is then a verb. So
I would go ahead and mark it as verbal if that's all right with you, unless you have an objection.
I do have an objection because it might attach to something we've decided is a noun, and then we're going to get a weird thing in the file. I'd rather not say what it attaches to. If I could reorganize the way Flex is, I would say this thing, anything it attaches to, that is a verb now. And a lot of things don't have inherent word class until something attaches to them. That's an easier way to work on it in these
Yep,
languages anyways.
I agree.
All right, now I want to go back to our tangi tangi. Now looking back at,
I'll give you another one.
all right,
So
so
the first singular agent is nowhere indexed in that clause. It seems to me. Give you again one.
um feels natural to me. What's the subject of feels? I didn't say it.
It is you. It is you yourself. No, right. I'm not saying. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just noting. It seems interesting. Probably the two singular object is more salient than who the subject is.
And
So that
subject might be um clear. It's a 1-2 conversation, and
that's
two is
true.
marked object. I agree with you that the object agreement. What I want to say here is that I believe that go is an allomorph of ego rather than van as an allomorph of vani.
Okay. Yeah, I was just about
My
to.
reason is because we've kind of
Oh,
seen the direction of these deletions.
that's right. I'm
T-
inclined.
tends to be
That's right.
oh
Lose one. Yeah. Not. I think it's not exclusively, but that does seem to be the tendency.
I guess we've seen a little bit of both directions depending
Right.
on
We've seen teku and ia that gives tekua.
and also garata to garatigo, the a is deleted. But we would say that the a there is not like it's inserted to satisfy the phonology. But especially in these 2-syllable words, you don't delete the final vowel of the 2-syllable word unless it's a reduplicate. But we will get to that some other time.
Yeah.
What to do is say that this is an allomorph of ego.
So allomorph, getting back to that idea of the morpheme as a meaningful part, it may show up in more than one form, ego or go. By a simple deletion rule, allomorph just expresses different form, but the same thing. Give you. Beautiful. Everything is tagged except, yeah. Good. Okay, can you take from the free translation, grab the he said, put it on the next line. Whenever Flex sees that sentence final punctuation, it's going to give you a new line. And that's he said. Good. I'll give you another one, he said. Ara na marina pa Kubokota. There, we could capitalize it. I think it was lowercase in the original booklet.
This sentence occurs twice, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought that was going to be a quick way to search. It wasn't that search. Quick. We're caught back up.
Oh, like I have a comment there. In that cell, if you just hover over the left side, the lowercase k, yeah. Yeah, that's what I really saw. So I'm just being as faithful as I can.
So Kubokota,
Make that as a mark that as a variant.
I'm gonna mark it as a spelling variant
Yeah, that's right.
of Kubokota, which we should already have in there.
Yep. Weird that it doesn't compare that automatically, but
Well, you can kind of understand why it might treat capital and lowercase as different phonemes. The
AF.
partially from a computer perspective, they have to be told that capital and lowercase are supposed to represent the same thing. That's not obvious to a computer. But importantly, there are often times where people are working with a language where the phonology lines up so poorly with the Roman alphabet.
Right. They'll need to use a capital.
The capital is important for meaningful reasons. I worked with a student who was working on a Kartvelian language, Georgian, the biggest one, I guess, and they used some system like this in their flex file.
Arabic, you would do it a lot, yeah. They have more T's and D's than English has, so you can mark the special ones with a capital letter.
We never figured out what Xi means.
Seen it much.
Well, I'm going to need help. We know so now. You. Who do you think you are? Said the warrior from Nongo. So we know this is the who do you think you are part. And it must be said the warrior from Nongo is on the next line.
It all lines up pretty well, unimpeachably.
Xi is who. Now,
Must be.
Have we seen who before anywhere?
I'm going to search. Finding page, if I only could.
You know what? We're gonna have to search this free translation, see what other words they use for who, because I believe who has
right.
come up.
Yeah.
Who has come up 5 times. There we get the one we were looking for, Xi. Who are fishing for dolphins. Now this is not who the question word.
It's the one Horton hears. Let's go to the next. Who had married, right?
These are all like relativizers. That was married into the V2 tribe.
We want the question word. Who was making all that noise?
Here we go.
No.
Was it you who made that noise?
Okay, but check out
again.
Check out 199. Who was making all that noise? That's an actual question. Can you just move that little cursor, please? Zay and Zai. Ize is interesting. It has a vowel.
So Zay and Zai, I believe, are I don't know if it's a spelling variant or they're actually pronounced differently.
Well, you can note that in this instance here, it's got owl. It's generally going to have a vowel preceding it. These words can't end up.
Zay, Ize,
with a person article fused onto it. I think Zai would be original, and E, introducing a name, could be that person.
I do think that E was historically a person marker. I think that all of these refer to persons, though.
Okay.
Now, I immediately recognize this, and seeing the Zay spelling, let alone the Ize spelling, really cemented in my mind. Well, the Roviana version is Ese, E-S-E-I. And A is the person article. That makes sense.
You talking to me, Ese?
Ese. What's interesting is that it seems optional, and this Xi seems to be. I don't know if that was. I may have even checked the book to make sure. Now we ought to before we decide that there's this real pronunciation variant. So this is page 24.
On that page, it's the second paragraph, as it appears. That's what that's showing. Let's see. It should be just a couple lines above the end of that second paragraph on that page. Wait, what's going on there? Something's up with my number.
Yeah, I don't think this is the right page.
Oh, okay.
Or it's the wrong. I'm in the wrong paragraph. I see it now.
Yeah. Okay, then there's a page turn. That's why the numbering is so strange. All right. Yeah, it should just be near the foot of the page. Ao, ao, zai, ao.
All right,
So
so I'm
you, who, you.
I'm seeing it spelled ZEI. That's why I'm double checking here. I think you may have actually made the very rare typo.
Right. A lot of times I just grab it from the page digitally and try to check, make sure it's right. But if we've got an error, then even better. It's more consistent. Is it ZEI?
I may be in the wrong spot.
Let's see. The last word of that page should be mbeto, right?
It is.
And that sentence before begins with the word tipai.
That's right.
The one before that begins with tekua.
Tekwa.
And we're looking for the sentence right before that one.
It is indeed ZEI.
Okay, so yeah, can you fix that there, please?
I'm going to fix it in the baseline.
That's the only place.
Go back to gloss so I can click on the actual word, I guess. No, I'm there.
There. You might just need to click left or right. There you go.
ZEI. Now I'm going to change it in this file too.
Very good.
ZEI. All right, that unifies our analysis. Now we have two allomorphs, ze and eze.
And can you just tab out of that cell so that no errors creep in? Thank you. I mean, they can still creep in, but a little less vulnerable there, it seems.
All right. So the question is, do we want ze or eze to be our lexicon entry and the other one be the allomorph?
Well, I don't know that they're allomorphs. I mean, what's it like in English? You can get among and amongst. There's no really identifiable difference in meaning, but they have different makeup. I would keep them on some level distinct. I don't know that I would want to say that eze is basic and the E is lost when E is a meaning for peace elsewhere in the language. It might tend to.
Let's look at our.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it looks like it isn't fixed. What happened?
That is odd. Now click the tab.
Uh-oh. Something did happen.
Oh, that got duplicated over. All right, do a couple back steps. Do Control Z's or so until it reverts to English. Yeah. One way you can avoid changing it unintentionally is if you select Print View. So below the File button, there's a little print icon. That's a quick way to do it. I don't think it's going to send it to your printer right away, but you should get a print. Or maybe go under the File and go to Print View.
Okay. Going back to our question of eze versus ze. I'm going to look for ze right quick. So here we get eze. Looks like there is a period that comes before it. This one, ze, is preceded by a vowel. And this one, ze, is preceded by a vowel. Now in koi, eze, if koi is touching, it's preceded by a vowel. But I suspect this is phonologically conditioned, not technically conditioned.
That's a good argument.
Yeah, I think
that. Let's take eze as basic then.
I think eze is the basic form.
That kind of predicts we're only going to get eze sentence initially. Because anytime it has a word before it, it's going to have a vowel before it.
You know, this is interesting to me because in Roviana, and maybe I'm wrong, and I wish that somebody else was puzzling over Roviana syntax and would demonstrate that I'm wrong, because I just want to know the truth. I'm not trying to be the arbiter of all knowledge here. But in Roviana, the previous work by Corsten Oliver, who I have met and I'm a huge fan of, we went hiking together in Hawaii. So definitely not disparaging the work they did in their master's thesis before moving on to PhD in more computational stuff. So they did some work as a master's student on Roviana, and at the point when I started studying Roviana, that was the most seminal work in all of Roviana linguistics. Mm-hmm. And they put a sketch grammar in Oceanic languages by Lynch, Ross, and Crowley. And so in the sketch grammar, they had identified that you get first singular arau, and second singular agoi. But they called those focus forms and said that when they're not being focused, They are Rao and Goy. Right. After studying it for a long time, I came to a different conclusion, which was that you get Arao and Agoy, sentence initial, which they were at that time calling a focus position. I'm agnostic as to what that fronting operation is, but anyways, when they were fronted, they're getting it. And I believe the reason is because you can only get that initial vowel sentence initially. So it agrees very much with your analysis of Zay and Ize. Roviana is pretty strict about WH fronting, typically, except out of island environments. Island environments, for those listening, I realize we are talking about islands in a country called Solomon Islands. But islands is a term from syntax coined by Tyler and I's shared teacher, Hadge Ross. And islands refer to a place in the syntax things cannot move out from. We're not going to get into it too much. It's very fun. I've written a bit about it.
Name one thing things can't move out of. Name one thing things can't move out of.
You even had to fix it.
That's right.
From. I think that a good example of islands that helps people get the idea. I'm going to try to do it. These island sentences examples of the bad sentences are very hard to come up with because they seem so bad to you. I have one memorized, and I'm trying to spit it out right. That's why I'm pausing here. Okay. How do I say it? Something like you hugged, what's our example name? We're using Sam, right?
Sure.
Something like you hugged Sam after I left or after I arrived. After I left. I guess it doesn't matter. You hugged Sam after I left. No, I can't even do it right. I literally can't even do it right now. Look, I'm going to Google it so we can get a good example. I swear I have done careful work on islands. It's been a second.
Yeah.
It's been a second. You know what? I might even treat you the best treat ever. Nothing better for any viewer to ever lay their eyes upon. My own typo-ridden dissertation. Now, when I wrote it, I didn't spot any typos. Look, I never printed it out. It's very long. I wrote I want to skip this too because there's bad typos. I wrote I wrote that part last, obviously. Let me look for my what I want is islands are mentioned here somewhere in.
Can you do Control F in this PDF? Look for islands.
Okay.
Island with that false S in it.
Well, the island is going to come out so much in this.
Oh, of course, because it's all not. Yeah. Never mind.
The title, so it's going to come out a lot. It should be about WH fronting, but I believe I put it in remaining mysteries.
Okay.
But that I don't see a spot for it, so it's towards the end, anyways.
125.
It's in the last chapter, I believe. It's not. I need to make this smaller so I can see it all at once. It looks nice.
Yeah. Okay. Gonna be before your
case marking. I'm okay. I think this is where I go with it. I'm talking about how it could be symmetrical voice, and the only evidence that it couldn't be symmetrical voice is this island effect, but I'm not actually seeing that here, so I think it must be in the WH fronting part. So I'm going to go take a look right quick. Up this way. I believe we were just looking at it in the syntactic ergativity section. Okay. Oh yeah. So I arrived after you gave the betel nut to Peter. So here's an example of an island. I arrived after you gave the betel nut to whom? You can't say. You would say, who did you give the betel nut to? But you couldn't say,
Who did I arrive after you gave the beetle nut to?
Okay, thank you, Tyler. I had a very hard time saying it. That's what
It's
we were going for.
it goes against the pathways of the human mind so strongly. Have I ever told you my sort of street definition of a syntactician?
What's that?
Someone who comes up with horrible sentences.
I agree. And people think like, oh, a bad sentence is like you said a word that's not in my dialect, or you mispronounced you said tortilla instead of tortilla, or whatever. No, a bad sentence is I like dog the. I had
Horrible.
memorized that bad sentence so that I can produce a bad sentence on the spot. It's not easy. Here's what I was trying to say for both the hugs. I arrived after you hugged Bill. Who did I arrive after you hugged? Comically bad. That's what I was trying to say there, folks. So
Right.
we'll close current tab.
Takes
We'll
special
minimize.
effort to produce something that bad.
It's not easy, but yes. So
you can gain a lot of insight from thinking about why it's so bad. But first, you have to come up with it in the first place.
I wish I hadn't
So,
closed it so we could see if they still spelled it essay or what they said say.
can you create Zay and show us that you can alter the form of the word as you're creating the entry, which is pretty cool. We're going to create new, and we think it's not the basic form, so you just pop in the letter you need. And now you can tell it it's who. And Flex doesn't bat an eye. We're creating a word for Zay, but we're saying it's actually Izay. And that's how it'll look. Yeah. Who? Not sure. Who? Is very appropriate.
All right, but will that give us an allomorph in our lexicon?
That's a great question. All right. Yeah, remember you can always control click, and that takes you right to the entry.
All right, I have habits from being new to it.
That's right. Allomorph, it's already there.
Automatically an allomorph. Okay, I've never done it this way, so I didn't know, and it's really cool that it does. That does save time. Normally, I would go find Izay, make that the base form, go back to Zay, create an allomorph. This is awesome. I think
there's many things they've done pretty well for Flex.
The shortcuts and life hacks or whatever in Flex, they don't really pay off time unless you use it a lot, and you only use it a lot if you do. So, like,
very blessed.
How many people out there in the world are doing what we are doing? If you had to speculate, I'm not on Ghanongga, but just on
any language. Probably fewer than 100,000, but more than two.
Yes, more than us, but yeah, for sure less than 100,000. How much is 100,000 out of there's 8 billion people in the world? 8. How many zeros are in billion? That's
nine zeros are in there. Da, 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 da.
Let's see what number it is. It won't even tell me what number it is. I can't even know. 8 billion. Okay.
You cannot know.
8 billion.
That's the American billion. In British English, billion has another sense. 10,000, just chop 5 zeros off. It's going to be 80,000. 1 in 80,000 people, if we take that high estimate.
Oh, we did this the wrong way. We actually need to do it the reverse if we want our percentage right. 100,000. 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3. Let's see it. That's how much I believe a percent of the world would be using Flex if it were 100,000 people, which is probably not. So it's probably not an enormous audience for using Flex. But that might change. Look, I think that if
one of our viewers we have inspired to start using Flex.
If you're this deep into the series, we're way past 20. I don't even know what number this is anymore. Although it will be in the title. You can know. Right. Off the top of my head, I don't know. Surely you're interested in Flex if you got this far. So I'm preaching to the choir. And dear choir, let me tell you. Of course, Flex is awesome. You know, the video games are like this. You start playing one on say, a browser or whatever when you're a kid, or, whatever happens. You start wanting it to be more complex, more engaging. The most successful video games of all time, what they do is they create expanded content so you can go more. Let me tell you, when you are addicted to your strategy game with 200,000 rules and all this, eventually you might feel this stuff is letting you down. It's not sophisticated enough. It feels fake. It feels plastic. Language will not. This is the video game that never ends. And what's crazy is you have this Flex side where we're kind of gamifying it a little bit. You can go out in real life and just hear people say stuff, and I mean, it does not stop. It's like,
That's right. As
I'm
someone
on a
who's
roller coaster and I'm only going up.
I'm delighted by my endlessly delighted by just my own native language, let alone all the other ones I'm fascinated by. And there's so much data, I could never even begin to encompass it all. I'm surrounded by wonderful by delights nonstop of just verbal behavior all around me. But I still go out of my way and wake up early to look at a language on the other side of the world. And we hope we inspire you to do stuff like that too. Let's go to the next sentence.
All right, so the next,
all the words are known.
all the words are known, so I have hidden the translation. I tried my best to not look at it. So, but why are we doing this now with all the words known? We're trying to see if we actually understand what the grammar is doing.
That's right. The syntax, the way phrases. Yep.
Tekwa. This is
an ergot one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that verb take or capture.
We assume then ruruhu is the subject. We have a verb subject object order. Take it, the spear, opere bakovada. Both of those are words we've seen for spear. But I think bakovada, when we saw in the Roviana dictionary, it has something to do with like the bamboo thing used for it.
The species of plant that's used.
Yeah, they have a species. So I believe these are throwing spears, not what you're thinking of, like, I don't know, like Roman times, the way they have a spear and a shield where they line up. And by the way, though, my understanding is a lot of these like Greek phalanx stuff is not really actually well understood. Like, it's often recreated, but the real understanding is they might have thrown them more than we think. Throwing spears seems like a good idea. One of the oldest technologies ever is the atlatl.
How do you spell that?
I'm going to Google it. It's an awesome word.
I've not heard of this. I believe. Oh, is that like
it's spelled atl?
Not. Oh, okay. It's a contraption.
They actually used to make these in the United States, and they named a state capital after it.
ATL.
I'm joking, of course. That was a lie. Please don't clip that and make it seem like we're no, that's not true. I just thought it was funny because there's not a lot of ATL. We lost the technology of the atlatl actually when it sunk into the ocean in a city that still exists under the sea. So this technology was so important that we actually named an entire ocean after it. All right.
More nonsense.
We're going to stop now with this Atlantic jokes. But the atlatl is, let's see if we can get a picture. Wikipedia is open, so we can look at
what
Wikipedia has.
Click images. Okay.
This looks like the right image for me. Oh, they don't want to show us that well. I was trying not to show too much stuff that might be copyrighted, but
this is on Wikimedia. It links to the spear. Okay.
It links to the spear. Now, we're not seeing any evidence of atlatl use here in this battle with Mechania and Ruruhu, and I don't know that they had any evidence of this in Roman times, but there's deep tens of thousands of years old evidence for atlatls. Imagine and it's a spear throwing thing. Notice how it has kind of like arrows. It has quivers on it and stuff. So the idea of using projectiles and increasing the power of your projectiles in any case is an old human idea, and we've been using it for a long time.
Yeah. Imagine the kind of genius you'd have to be to come up with that. Like, my arm is just, I guess you'd have to notice the short-armed people throw less well than the long-armed people. How can I extend my arm?
People get, we have this idea in our modern culture that, like, you go and you research and you publish papers, and then that inspires engineers, and then it's applied, and then we get products from that. This writer Taleb, I'm not endorsing Taleb, I'm just not acting like I made up this observation. He pointed out that the invention of the wheel is extremely old, probably 10,000 years old, something like that. And the invention of luggage, something to put your things in, is probably much older than that. But he said it wasn't till like the 90s people thought of putting those little wheels on the bottom of luggages. Like, so there's actually usually a pretty big disconnect between discovery, innovation, application of ideas. And when Tyler is talking about the genius of somebody who had to figure it out, it's wildly genius. I am basically constantly struck by the genius of humans throughout time. One of the things that we tell ourselves, so everything we believe is fact. We say science is real. I'm not an anti-science kick. I'm just trying to temper that we all live with modern myths. We look back at the myths. We look at the myths of the storytellers that they're telling us, which I don't think that they believe that the world is necessarily this way. They're telling us myths that they've heard as stories. And we would look at, say, the ancient Greeks and say, did they really believe in Zeus or this or that? That's like saying, like, do you really believe in that atoms exist? Do you really believe that the sun is rotating around the earth and things like that? Excuse me.
Well,
Probably
people
don't
did believe
that. Probably you believe that the earth is orbiting around the sun and the earth is rotating. But in any case, these are actually all myths we tell ourselves true. And I don't say myths to mean they're not real. I mean that we are differentiating. Old people don't, the people of olden times, they believed crazy stuff, but everything we believe today makes sense and is smart. And my point is, probably, if history is a guide, probably we also have flawed understandings of various things about our natural universe that we believe are fact today, and that in the future humans will be like, well, there used to be a myth that gravity worked because of mass or attraction or whatever, but we all know that it's secretly little invisible gremlins pulling on you with lassos or whatever, you know.
Where would we without floating off in space?
We used to not know that. Now we know, right? So, anyways, my point is, long story or short story, extremely long. I am constantly amazed by the ingenuity of people, and we often kind of one of the myths we tell ourselves is that we're different from them, the people that came before. Now you can go and a scientist will tell you people 100,000 years ago were anatomically modern. They had all the same thoughts and whatever you did. But you have to think about something like the atlatl and realize you're like, well, that wasn't that hard to come up with. It was hard to come up with. Think about, dear listener, some of you maybe have come up with something neat that's helped humanity, and I'm so flattered that you're watching this. But to come up with something unique is novel, is pretty wild, and almost all of us delegate all of our thinking about everything in life to someone else, almost only to people who've come before us, by the way. So I don't understand how the cell phone works. I mean, I can tell you, oh, it sends out a signal. What's the signal made of? Well, it's like little waves. Does it go through the air? Will I hear it? Will I feel it? Well, you sort of, no, actually, I don't really have that good of an understanding. Well, what's inside of it? So it's a little computer. Well, what's a computer? Well, it uses ones and zeros. How does it use the ones and zeros? Well, like, one means one and 10, I think, means two and something like this. And so, like, all right, but so how do you get from that to, there's all these, interfaces and programming. Okay, just tell me about the computer chip then. We see part of it is made from silicon and it has some other metals too, and they send electricity back and forth. All right, so how do you get from that to social media? Well, honestly, I've delegated almost all the thinking. I have very little understanding of it. I'm just being honest. When we go into it this way, this attitude, by the way, is absolutely necessary for the task we're doing. Despite that it was a digression, it is a relevant kind of mental model. Your learning mindset has to be, these people were not stupider than me. In all reality, probably a storyteller who they recorded the stories was probably an above average intelligence person. And if you're a person, you should consider that you probably have average intelligence.
Sorry.
This person may have even been smarter than you. That's where you should start off thinking, and that they aren't accidentally talking about whatever they're talking about.
Consider to live in a pre-modern environment, to survive to adulthood, not a trivial task, let alone make it to old age. You got to be pretty smart.
There are arguments. I'm not going to quote the authors, so to not promote any sort of back and forth controversy. I believe the controversy, I'm not going to get into the books. I'm very interested in books on human prehistory, and it is not an uncommon thread of thinking to think that humans were actually, on average, had higher intelligence before agriculture, let alone before the Industrial Revolution, because the amount of knowledge a single individual would need to survive in a pre-modern environment was astounding. I know that popularly there has been this knowledge of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. It is an ancient site. It's the most ancient megastructure that we know of. But if you start looking around the world, you'll see that there's evidence. We just can't go back very far. There's evidence of people having just profound understandings of nature, the natural world, and their environment going back a long time. And on the bow and arrow and atlatl thing, I just read yesterday that a new paper has come out in archaeology suggesting that they found evidence of a bow and arrow tens of thousands of years before they thought it was even possible. And they're like, wait, this pushes back because the atlatl is assumed to have come before the bow and arrow.
Wow.
This pushes back what we think about the atlatl. When you start finding, what's that?
Think about the bow and arrow too. You don't see animals doing that. Somebody had to spring from somebody's mind.
Things like bow and arrows and boats are very interesting technologies when you're interested in human prehistory, because people will tell you something like, oh, I don't know, the first boat was invented in the Netherlands because we found one from, I think, 8,000 years ago. There's a boat there. And so I've had like, you know, not arguments with academics, just regular people who feel very profoundly that the Pacific people couldn't have traveled by boat because they would have only had 3,000 years to gain the technology from Western Europe, and it would have. No, the boat's way older than that. The boat is way older than that. That's just the oldest one we found. The idea of the boat. There is evidence that Homo erectus sailed. That predates us by minute. That's like saying the difference between Latin and Spanish. Homo erectus is so far back, it was a different species. We descend from it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so far back, there were several iterations. In fact, like Neanderthals, Denisovans, and all that, I'm understanding all of them come from Homo erectus. So probably Homo erectus, pretty important one. When you look at bow and arrows, it's interesting to see how dispersed they are around the world, even with people that were uncontacted with each other. So if you look, for example, one of the most isolated groups of people in the world is the Sentinel Islanders, the Sentinelese. Now, there are the Andaman Islands are over there. They're off kind of like the western
coast of India,
subcontinent of Southeast Asia, so west of Malaysia, Vietnam, etc. And they're in the Indian Ocean, and they belong politically to the Indian government. Now, if you look at those people, they were probably part of the first migration of humans out of it. Well, I say first on what counts as a human.
One of the oldest that still has traces now.
That's correct. And they were probably part of the same migration that led to the Papuan peoples and the Australian Aboriginal peoples today. And by the way, that genetic marker is found also in the center of the Amazon. So probably people that spread out, the first real go out and explore the world group of humans. Maybe not. Maybe this is more complicated. We'll learn new things.
Just say the oldest extant group, maybe.
Yeah, that we know of. Yes, there's recent evidence shows that people left, modern Homo sapiens left Africa at one point, like something like 150,000 years ago, but the humans didn't make it. The group eventually dwindled, didn't make it, but that they admixed with Neanderthal, and that all the Neanderthals that mixed with humans, that's how we still have Neanderthal DNA, had the marker from that earlier mixing with humans. So there's probably been a lot of mixings throughout this time. Anyways, groups
who doesn't love,
they expand, they recede, etc. The Sentinelese have bow and arrows, which you know about if you know about their famous news story from a couple of years ago. Google it if you don't. I'm not going to discuss it.
Yeah, let's not. But let's go with our text. Here,
let's continue with the text. Sorry for that. You get talking about bows and arrows and prehistory, and I am lost here.
Well,
okay, so we talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked it through. It's interesting that it's Vakevani, Soravani, that the Vani is repeated.
This is interesting. Ruruhu took another spear. We got that.
The fellow.
And it looks like he threw it again. But it says, and the man drew back his arm and let the spear fly. Oh, okay. I don't know why I heard Vake kept thinking negative, and I got to remember that.
Oh, that's right. It does seem that way, yeah. Zake.
Not a negative. It just means throw.
Now, question, that Ngokolo fellow, is that the subject of the second clause?
I agree.
So what is it doing? What is it doing out to the left there? Oh, it's the ergative agent. Is that why? Is it fronted?
Well,
perhaps.
Yes, I'm very open to this idea that it's fronting there. It'd be interesting to see if we can get this kind of fronting. Yeah, at a certain point, we're going to have to look at all our fronting and find examples. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a painstaking operation. But once
I
we
love
know what we're looking for, it'll be easier. Right now, we just be marking everything randomly. I feel
pretty much.
like once we get through the book, then we've got to have specific targeted goals. Let's figure out what the
So just to recap for the people watching, we've pretty well established that the language wants to be verb initial. That's its strong tendency. So whenever it's not, something special must be going on. Like in this one, we've got takeaway in the first clause. That's the verb. He captured it. He took the thing. And then, if we follow the English, and the man drew back his arm and led the spear. Now, it's not unusual for English to have the subject first in its clause. More unusual for Ghanongga to do that. I don't
yeah,
think the is connected to what's before. The subject is mentioned by name in that
it's like
clause.
the fellow he threw the spear.
And that fellow, he threw the spear, yeah. And then that, oh, that's probably it. Because of the change of thrower. And
They
then
say
then he threw the spear.
they say the man right there, right?
What about drew back his arm? Why is that even mentioned in the English? There's no arm. There's no
Uh,
drawing.
I believe that the same way you get certain information from stacking particles and phrasal verbs, that this information is obvious to speakers of the language, but not obvious to us. That's what I believe is going on. And so they're trying to give us a good, instead of saying, oh, he threw, give again, give, be like, well, he drew back his arm and let the spear fly. And it conceptually works like we could say back up in around the corner, and you have like an idea of a really specific path, but it seems like nonsense maybe to a. I want to go back to talking about Ngokolo here in this sentence. Now, I don't know, is he saying Zay and Ize just randomly? It's possible. People variate their speech for all sorts of reasons, including pragmatic reasons, like it sounds cool this way, or even poetic reasons. Well, I knew it had an extra length, or so it's not clear to us, and we don't have a recording of it to verify the transcription is correct, or that the man was raising his pitch, or whispering, or whatever other kind of things might give us hints. But I noticed that a lot of times, so here you have I ruruhu, na varene. A lot of times, nouns, if they're the subject, are preceded by a particle of some sort.
Yes.
Not here.
Not here.
Right? And not in this next sentence with mechania either. So when we eventually get there, and I'm keeping my eyes peeled, I can't figure out why sometimes you get an article and sometimes you don't. Because this article here before ruruhu isn't really telling us anything that useful, other than this is a proper noun.
Yeah, yeah.
So appendixes, now an appendix, I guess, really does serve appendix in the human body does serve a purpose that has been recently discussed. But in any case, we use this to say, hey, here's this thing that doesn't do anything. What did it evolve for, or whatever? There's not that many appendixes in languages. You like to think there are. There's a bunch of extra stuff, and especially if you use like formal speech.
If you please.
If you please. Yeah, so if you're using formal speech or business speech, a lot of this stuff is filters.
You mean fillers?
No, I
No.
mean filters. Like the double negative thing. Most languages in the world use negative concord, meaning you should say,
Right.
I don't have none. You should say
Right.
that. But
negation, noun phrase, and in the verb phrase.
this
Right.
is a prescriptive rule in English that you should say, I don't have any. I'm used to the prescriptive rule. I grew up with it. That sounds fine to me in my native English. But that would be something that would quickly change if there wasn't an external structure putting pressure on it.
It was different in
our society.
Yeah, they had negative concord.
Right. So what I'm saying here is a lot of the spurious stuff that we have in modern languages. So like France, for example, has a board that controls the way French is going to sound. They try to.
Right.
And in English, we do this with things like high school diplomas and SAT tests and college degrees. You just can't get it unless you adhere to the standard. Right.
Laid down. That's right.
And therefore, you will get things like who and whom. Does no lifting. It's irrelevant. So everybody has to learn it as a. Oh, I don't even think most academics care to use it in writing anymore, but that's the kind of thing. Spoken languages often don't have as much of this stuff. So it's, for me, interesting to see that this E can be left or not. Likely, it's telling us more than just that this is a proper noun. Likely, it's telling us something about case or grammatical alignment or voice, as I've said before. Who knows? And it could be just like this tipai mechania could be E just deletes after tipai.
Yeah, yeah, could be that.
Could be totally
Right,
fine.
worth mentioning. Very
All right,
much.
let's see if we can translate another sentence here.
Now we
I
got
didn't even take a guess. My
almost
bad
all.
on that.
Hold on, hold on. It's interesting that it's they didn't see the place where it landed in this one. It's another. It's going to be repeated from earlier sentence where the one at whom the spear is being thrown avoids it. Here sidestepped. Didn't watch where it fell. But the subject index for that verb of seeing is plural. They didn't see it. Maybe they both didn't, but something, I don't know. I get a sense that something is special about that engage. It's not Zake, but yeah. I would want to know why is it a plural. It could be that the speaker misspoke, and the translation is just sort of silently correcting it.
This tipai blows my mind. I know that we already analyzed this, but I expect the E from Roviana and related languages to be a third plural agreement marker, so it should be forced to be tipaia. For example, in Roviana, you get taka for kick.
Third, do you mean third singular?
The E should be third plural.
I see. Okay.
Based on the other languages around it, it's surprising that you're getting E as a allomorph of ia. So in Roviana, you get taka for kick. If you kick it or the third singular object, based on Ghanongga, it should be takai, but it's takaia. They allow three vowels in this case because it's too important to preserve the information, and they can't delete the E because for the same reason as Ghanongga, you can't have tapa, tipa. It's too confusing. They don't allow long vowels. They don't tolerate it.
That so it's right. We have to specify that's language specific. The way you resolve these conflicts.
Do we have
For
any
one
idea?
language, perfectly acceptable to have a long vowel resulting from that contraction, but
Correct.
others avoid that.
Yeah, so we don't know what does Loa mean?
Mm, it's going to be falling. I wouldn't put Loa in there.
I meant to be
Right. Okay. Loa is Loa, bro. Uh, didn't see place where it. Oh no, lotu is fall. Okay. I think it is going to be a verb. It's in position for a verb. We're looking
we did
at
it
a.
once.
Try just searching for lo word initially though. The a is could be morphology, but just space lo if you would. The device I'm on doesn't let me search as easily as a computer.
I don't think it's object agreement, but I'll entertain
Yep.
this idea.
All right, thanks. Lao. Oh, it could be a misspelling of Lao.
I think that I think that is a good hypothesis.
Can you check the book? Yep. All right, you're a step ahead of me there. This is going to be Loa Lo 2. The very last line on page 24.
It does indeed say Loa.
Where it fell, where it
I
went
believe that it
from.
is a variation, a spelling variation of Lao. Go. I think
Do
that
we
makes
get
the most sense here.
do we get sequences of Oa much? We're going to find some English words that have it.
I think we're
Oa.
mostly going to find
Not
English words that have it.
okay.
Betoa.
Oa, Metoia. Okay. I bet you it's not going to be within a morpheme that you get Oa. It's only going to be at a morpheme boundary. Nyangoa.
Toa.
Toa.
I can't believe I didn't think of Toa right off the bat. I knew Toa. Toa alive in this case.
Me not live.
I think Loa is
Ah, Boana. Boana. Boa. Okay, we do get a few, but it's not a high frequency sequence. I think it's safe
for
to say.
Loa Lotu. Getting back where I am.
Yep, good way to find your place.
Well, I think it go fall makes the most sense here.
Where it went to falling, yeah. Where it went and fell. I think let's treat it as a variant for now. Another thing we could do is just correct it somewhere. We think that it should be Lao.
I'm
This
just
will
going to
do.
call it a spelling variant for now.
And
Meaning
there you
it's
go.
just
Double click that, and it gives you that as a variant. Yep.
good.
Where it go fall. Beto. And that was the end of that. Zaraz azai rinjo imekania. Vandi. New words are coming in. Totosa. Azaria.
Okay.
Tinoni.
So Zara is that or this.
Ranjai I ruruhu. Ranjai is very nice. The rare initial. A lot of initial
So
R's in this word, which
we
is
have
not
had Rinjo before,
in the place name.
only in Rinjo Bangara.
Yeah.
Now I'm really excited about this because I told you that Bangara has a meaning already.
The king, chief kind
Chief,
of thing.
big man, something like that.
Yeah.
And I've talked quite a bit about this particular island called in Roviana, Kolombangara. Kolo meaning water.
Yeah.
It's called this because it has such a high mountain. It has a cloud forest, and it creates clouds, and it never has a drought. I may have mentioned on this series already that I met a researcher from UCLA who had stayed weeks and weeks in the cloud forest, researching bird species that only exist there, is the only place they exist in the world. If Rinjo would mean water in this, then it would be easy for me to understand that where Rinjo Bangara actually is, because then that means it's Kolom Bangara. And we have never seen Kolo in here. And if you live on Pacific Island, that's, Ghanongga is not a huge island. Surely water is super important, both as far as knowing all the different waters of the ocean, but it's a constant task to make sure you have fresh water to drink, because it doesn't necessarily always rain. You might say everything's green and lush. It's not raining. Right? Water crisis definitely really happen. So I'm going to actually go ahead I'm going to try to solve Rinjo instead of trying to guess translation. Translation. So that's how it went. Mechania this time, their person. So that I don't know. I'm too excited to get on Rinjo.
Watch where it fell. That is how Mechania moved to give his men time so they could get ready to attack Karuruhu. No water, probably. That is the way. You think that's the verb?
Rinjo definitely does not mean water.
Not this one. Could be another. Is it? That's going to be the. Let me think. Is that the verb to move there? Zavandi. That's the giving verb. He's giving time to the men.
Yeah.
Right.
Vandi is
give them.
We already see Vani as give.
Yes.
Vandi is just plural of Vani.
So that's probably the source of the causative to this verb root of giving.
Yeah. So I think you get, so look, we get ni for these like applicative objects. Cause applicative makes a lot of sense for Vani to be broken down that way. Vandi would just be give them.
Give them.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and put that in something like that. We have an option here. We could go and break up Vani and Vandi into their parts. And we've seen the sound symbolism already of D and Dia. I propose we just make this a variant, which means give them. Or make this a new entry.
Why is that?
It's actually just so that the flex file is more streamlined. That's it.
Make it a capital PL, please. You want to say 3PL? Threeple?
This is not give them, as in he's giving his men to someone. He's giving something for them.
To them, okay. I think the D is marking them as a recipient of the giving action.
I'm going to call it give to them. D is always 3PL, but this is...
So the disadvantage to that is then if you go and search for all the instances of D, it won't include this. You'll have to just remember that we fused them here. That's one disadvantage.
We will, but we're going to have to go back and check D. But we actually have never yet, and I don't believe ever will, see va as give by itself.
Okay, I see, I see.
So I remember that I had this idea about the word for give in Roviana, poni. It's interesting. We have this PV correspondence, and we have seen some vowel shifting. I don't know if that could be the source of it. But I originally thought for a long time that ni probably is like the applicative in Roviana. Oh, they fused that right on there. But I never see poni become pondi. In Roviana, it would be poni ia or poni nigo. You would literally get the doubled up.
Cool.
I have to double check that to be sure. But I believe
Right.
it's totally thought of as one thing. Now I admit that is influencing me here, but I don't really want to break it down. I want to say it's its own root, and
It
I
does
like
seem
to say it's like
awfully short for a verb root. I wonder if it's underlinely va or something. Hard to prove or disprove, I think.
well, and then it sounds like um. So check this out. In Oceanic, the the often causative you see came from paka,
Okay.
right? So
Is that a root or just an affix of some kind?
prefix,
Okay.
and you only get va, you don't get vaka, cause in, but like for example in Samoan you get fa'a. So for
Where
example,
there's a glottal stop that comes from K.
that's right, that comes from K. So you get fa'a Samoa, which means like do things the Samoan way.
Nice.
In Hawaiian you get ha'a, and I
Okay.
believe you get the doublet ho'o
Ah,
as well.
mele. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I
Did I
haven't.
spoil something for your Duolingo studies?
I don't regard it as
Said
spoiling at all.
pa'a, my mind went, that's plausible. But no, I don't think so. You don't get any paka here in Oceanic, as far as I can tell. I'm going to call it a verb. I think I'm going to leave it like this, but we can go and revise it later if we change our minds. When we
Always a
study,
possibility. Easy to do.
what I'm going to do is go to my definition here.
I'm going to keep listening. I'll be here, but you won't see me for a
It's
moment.
going to say give to them,
Give to me.
related to Vani, give to it, he, she, because it's really just third singular, and that's what we mean here. Likely derived from positive va,
It should be CAUSA in causative.
CAUS. I literally was in my mind was like, I got to remember that it's spelled with an I, not an A, and I had it backwards. From va and D. All right. So we have some notes there in the definition to help us. Looking back at it again, Rinjo must mean move. What's interesting is you get Rajai here, Ranjai, and we have a suspect it exists. They will get ready. They exist ready to attack Ruruhu.
For Kola, maybe we should say like be in place.
I think it's the get part and ready. Although this is kind of yeah. So, anyways, I think Ranjai that the E is indeed third singular agreement.
I agree.
Ranja is probably prepare or get ready. Let's see if we can find anything
Wait,
like that.
why wouldn't it be attack?
Well, that's a pretty good idea. So they be attack. That would make a lot of sense, Tyler. That would make a lot of sense.
I have my moments, I guess.
So they could be attack. All right. And then B would be kind of the get ready. We don't have anything like Ranja in. It would be Raza in Roviana if it was anything, if the sound correspondences help us.
Right.
What?
Words with J are quite rare. It's very rare for me.
We get Raza and Razaiya to a sail. So that's pretty good. Now, illness, sickness. Okay, let's see. You gave us some other suggestions for Raza. Razaiya. Let's see what it looks like. Assail him who comes to steal. So Raza means assail, which is very similar to attack. All right, do you want to go with attack for Ranja? Attack.
I do. Sounds good to me.
Making it a verb. And then we have here for Rinjo. So Rinjo Bangara is moving king? Or moving chief or big man or whatever? I'm down to call this move. Verb it. Let me look back at my gloss. What are we missing?
Just beware of eye lice. I'm not sure that this Rinjo Bangara is going to be a native Ghanongga word, especially since it's a place name.
Well, and Rinjo Bangara doesn't seem to line up with Kolam Bangara. It's hard to know exactly. I remember the day we looked at the actual map, that was helpful. But we might not be able to find all of it. And the place name might be more helpful than you think. I often think of Tokyo and Kyoto. The place names are pretty helpful, although the homophony is also confusing. That people that don't know, Kyoto and Tokyo mean essentially one part of the word means capital in both.
Yes.
And one means like east capital and new capital. Is that right?
Kyoto just means capital city. Tokyo, one is long, one's short, by the way, the Toll part. The Kyo is shared in both. That's the capital. It's the Jing of Beijing also. Tokyo, the eastern capital, being newer than Kyoto. It was formerly called Edo.
Anyways, the Bangara idea of I'm using that to mean capital might not be that crazy. And that there might be
the chief among villages, perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, it might be understood. Okay, I don't know if we can. We're getting a lot of J's all of a sudden.
Yeah, they come together, not just here. Once you've done one nja, you crave more. They're like potato chips.
This one, how? Now we've got to check that right quick. Got to check that. That to me seems suspicious.
Like no comment from me there, though.
Sure enough.
Oh, there could be an unwritten glottal stop keeping those oohs apart. Oh,
so we're just missing our little.
Yeah.
What did we decide there with the hyphen? Being a glottal stop.
That's just my best guess on that. I don't. Hard to confirm or disconfirm.
Does this speaker ever use a hyphen?
Great question. Well, if you just do a search for the hyphen.
I looked, we haven't seen it so far, but yeah, I'll text.
Oh, it won't be a hyphen. It'll be an X in here, capital X.
I'm gonna look in the concordance.
Yeah, we would do it. You want the baseline now.
Yeah.
And just any X, I think. You can tell it to match case, but well, yeah, no need. Just if you're working on a language where that matters. Tangi, we do have some. Yeah, we have a few X's.
Okay. So that
let me get X.
That hypothesis.
Oh, we could have ow diphthong and then oo as its own nucleus following. It does look odd, but there's no no rule. There's no rule saying that the basketball player can't be a dog.
Well, almost snuck that one right under the radar.
Air Bud, I guess was the name of that movie. Haven't seen it, but famous line from that one.
Okay, I have alternate potential hypothesis here. In Tangi Tangi, the X is indicating vowel deletions.
Okay.
Why would vuke, which we know means like kill or something, right? Va vuke, cause dead. It
Oh,
can't
in
be,
the text of Tangi Tangi. I gotcha. Okay.
yeah, it can't be vukeia. It's going to be vukeia. And in this case, he's marking that the vowel has been deleted. Unless you
Interesting.
think it's vuke.
Yeah, I don't really. That doesn't quite satisfy me. That works for me. The speaker might be doing this, or this scribe, perhaps we should say. Maybe it's the same person speaking and writing it. But maybe what they're doing is apostrophe if a vowel is dropped in a prefix, dash if it's dropped in a suffix.
They may see one as the contraction and the other not as a contraction. And again, that might be based on studying English. Well,
Yep.
I don't know for sure. So I think I'm just going to not make any claims right now and leave it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and put in this next
Wait.
translation. Do you want to take it first?
Actually, can you scroll back up a little? It looks like we have a blank free translation in 626. Just go a little higher. No, okay, it just wasn't showing.
No, this is blank,
That one is 627, yeah.
but I just thought I'd leave it. We can put
Okay. But
finish.
yeah,
You.
finished. Yeah. Much better. Just so it shows we didn't forget about it. We didn't overlook it. Ani panjatu kokinana.
I'm down to just skip and
Yeah,
put
with too many unknown words there.
the guessing
Good to
is good when we're trying to learn about the grammar, but it's less good when we're trying to guess words.
agree. And so Mecania went up that hill away, without being worried. So we're going to see negative negation there, zake, without being worried about those men. He went up, yeah, it's broken into two sentences in the English. He went up to Nango and waited there, stay there.
And it's interesting because it has about those men and it has singular galani. Now galani.
Yeah, those men. Well, I think the Varene, the warriors, are just being translated as men here.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they recovered a plural meaning from a singular thing.
That pau, and gala seem to be the worrying part of the clause.
I think we've already seen gala. Is that correct?
I don't recall it, but I certainly don't recall everything.
No, we haven't.
At least not in that form.
No.
No hay nada.
Although I do think the knee is like that. Well, let's start with panja.
Yeah.
Must be hill.
Well, is it in place for the noun? Would ani be the verb of going up? Kena, kenanatu, ko kenanatu. That kena?
Have we seen kenna before?
I don't think so.
We'll know quickly. Haven't.
That, do you think there's a negate any connection to the negation particle in that kinana? Went up that hill away. That's interesting too. That went up that hill away. It's unusual phraseology for English. Might be reflecting something important going on in the original.
I'm back to. Oh no! Oh no!
Done that many times. Yeah. If
I'm
if you
back to
mess,
put them together because I'm not sure if it's K
yeah,
nana or K na na.
I'm inclined. Yeah, we. This is the most substantial gap we've had in a while. We've got most of our words filled in so far in this text.
You want to start calling ani something like that?
If you want, I'm not opposed. That paragraph 7 is just one sentence. So somebody seems to have accorded it a lot of weight. That is how Megania moved to give his men time so they could get ready to attack the Rudugu. It's a turning point in the story, I guess.
I like to solve something in this sentence, but I don't know. Let's take a look for panja and see if we see it anywhere else.
Sounds good.
And what's happened continually is the more stories we have, the better we get. Now it's twice. That's pretty good.
Yep, that is helpful.
Why are you up there?
Eyes of a why is that gu? Let me just move my little thing. Gu panja tu suvere mua. Why do you stay? Is that misaligned or is that really two clauses? Why are you up here? Eyes of a gu
Now,
panja.
mua
Uh-huh.
almost certainly is a possessive for second singular.
For your
It's interesting to me that they have mua after suvere. If it was nominalized, you'd expect it suvere mu. And mua, at least in Roviana, is you might call it indirect possession if you're just describing it morphologically, meaning you can attach mu to the end of a word, like I think nene is leg, nene mu, your leg. But if I was going to say your house, vetu, I would say mua vetu. So it's interesting to hear that mua is here, and I believe that it's meaning like yours. I don't necessarily think it's modifying suvere, although syntactically, although the meaning recovered might still be your stay.
I see.
Why are you up here? Your stay. Something
Mm,
like this.
mhm.
It doesn't really help us that much with panja. Panja gu could also mean as. We've seen gu do other things than
Yeah.
just say.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Why are you as as up completed? Your stay. Just saying that panja could be up. Uh, and pa is already our locative, so panja meaning up is not that weird. And pa u. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about panja as up?
Seems about as good a guess as we can make at this stage. Going up a hill. Maybe it's go away though. Kanana could be the. Where's the hill? Does it go up? If it just means go uphill, or retreat to the hills.
Well, imagine Kenana means hill, and that this ko is actually like the dative.
Go Kanana.
Then you get
Oh yeah.
so
That's right.
mechania upped to hill.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Kanana could also mean something like center of the island or something that's opaque to us, but would be obviously a hill if you knew about the geography.
Yes.
So I'm tempted to think that Panja is up, but it could also mean something like ascend.
Yeah.
Because they say went up. And I think Panja for went up is probably our best thing. And then that also really works as why are you up here? Why is your ascent your stay? Makes
Oh,
us
for the one that's following a few
so
lines.
I think ascend is probably our best one for
Yeah.
Panja, unless you want to say go up.
Up here, yeah. Be high, or just let's say, yeah, ascend works well for me, I think.
Yeah, I
What's the
think
reason here?
be high is my real guess in my mind. I just couldn't think of any English word for it except something like perch or something that doesn't quite make sense. So I thought ascend will be our closest guess here. I'm going to call
Like,
it a verb. Oh, be high has another meaning, obviously, in English. I didn't think about it. Like, but we can't, we aren't meaning this one. We mean literally physical location high. Why?
be
Okay.
high up. Yeah.
Ani, want to call it another dem determiner or dem demonstrative or whatever? We already have dem det,
Done,
several
done.
things,
Yeah, it's a good set.
but I just think I'm just going to go ahead and call it
Got it. Yep.
because I don't know what else to do with it.
Hopefully sort it out sometime. Yeah.
We've seen it a lot. It clearly
Mhm.
has some sort of this, that meaning. It's not going to be easy to sort it out. One of the things though is we might eventually be able to meet a Ghanongga speaker even virtually, maybe even over Zoom, and we can record it and put it. And we'll by that time we should have a clear list of questions. All right, now for Kenana, it could mean hill. Let's see if we can find anything like it in our.
Right.
Nope.
Let's just Kena, Kena. What about just Ken? Does that give us anything?
Gives us a lot of things.
All right. Kenny.
We knew Kenny already.
Yeah, we had seen it. Went out, so that's right. Don't think there's a connection there. I think it's going to be the hill word, not probably the suffix or enclitic. That's the only hit.
Let's appeal to Roviana.
Kine might be the match. All right. Fish edible.
What's the hill?
Amphidus mastriata.
Tongere I thought was mountain, but that kind of makes sense. Botu Botu.
Akambatu, right at top of it. Pakana.
Inoki. Sorry, I shouldn't leave this. They went uphill. Sage patongare si arini.
Sage.
Sage is to go up and rise. To go up, rise, ascend. So that's probably our panja. Probably a similar word there.
As far as the semantics, not the origin.
Semantics, correct. So we looked. No, they have the word hills twice. Lauru is my homeland, hills seen from a distance. Soloso, inland, away from the beach, also as home. Gua soloso si palaulu. So this idea actually is pretty much what I was talking about, that there might be like an inland away from the beach word. These kind of directionals make sense on an island. And they're pretty ubiquitous throughout island culture. I don't just mean Austronesian, although it's pretty common in Austronesian. We've discussed Mauka and Makai already. But my understanding is that like even I remember meeting a researcher, I believe his name is Jonathan Loam. He is an Australian associate of my friend Jonathan Schlossberg, who worked on directionals in Marshallese based on islands. They did a cool bunch of neat experiments. Please look into it. Also, if you like directionals, we had a podcast recorded with Dr. Leah Pappas while she was still a PhD student, and she has since graduated. Very interesting stuff. Anyway, Jonathan Loam was working on the language of the Maldives, I understand to be an Indo-European language, and they had some sort of directional systems as well because of being on an island. So that's a neat little thing about language. I hope that creates a rabbit hole for some of you. All right, Zuapa, 7. Zuapa Ngavelu, 70. Zuapa Tanda of moon when high in the sky. Zuapa Botumbotu, the 7 hills of Roviana Islands.
What's it that of moon when high in the sky? What is Tanda?
Tanda?
Yeah.
Seem like this Tamu Tana business of possession type thing.
Interesting. Wonder what's the connection of 7 to moon?
It's not the word for moon. The word for moon is. Let's Google it. I have the dictionary, or let's search it. I have the dictionary right in front of me. I'm gonna feel so Sindara.
Okay.
I needed to say it before we got there.
Sindara.
Sindara. Okay, I can't be so embarrassed as to forget the word for moon. But you reach now. Look, Botu Botu Kale, instead of the moon when gibbous. We know Botu Botu means hill.
Yes. Okay.
We know
I don't know what gibbous means. I'm not familiar with this.
It's some sort of moon shape. No. Okay. What does it have to do with the moon? This Zuapatanda.
The
We
moon
know
gate.
Zuapa Botu Botu, the seven hills of Roviana, is important. So they're using Zuapatanda, maybe something like R7, right? They're referring to the hill shape of the moon. What do you think? Based on what we just saw with the gibbous that's based on Botu Botu hills. So they're using hills to describe moon shapes. You're
Gibbous
like,
means
this doesn't make sense.
characterized by convexity protuberant is what, or humpbacked is what gibbous means.
So
Or
that's what it has like it's not fully bright. It has the sickle of shadow.
as a more precise astronomical meaning, having more than half of its disk illuminated, but not the whole.
Yeah. You can
Huh.
see how that would kind of look like a hill, I guess.
Certainly. Okay.
In any case, describing it in hill shapes
City.
um, makes way more sense than calling it a gibbous. So definitely no shade at all. And I admit it. Look, I admit it. I'm a Roviana stan. If they do it that way, I think it's cool and I like it. Okay, we haven't really solved our main primary question here as to what does Kanana mean. And I don't think we will, unless you want to take the guess hill or inland or something like that. I don't either. I also don't know what Pau or Galani means. Now we only get this Pau once. Do we even get another Pau anywhere? Nope. Do we
Not
get
yet.
Gala? Now we get this in a couple places.
All right, let's do some digging there. Yigala, following the rites. Okay. Follow the rites.
Gigala is probably from Gigal.
Yeah, probably.
I think we get Gigala a couple times.
Burala, Bezotu. It hit the ground. Okay, that'll be Bural, will be the form there.
Gigala again. Gigala again.
Alani. Oh, that's this one.
No help.
Little help indeed. Together they're being concerned about or worrying about something. So what each one means on its own could be many different things. I think let's go on to the next.
I think we have to go on to the next. We've gotten so accustomed, so comfortable with being able to solve every word in the sentence.
Hold on. Don't show us yet because we have all the words. Right. Let's put our interpreter caps on. We know every word. This is the ideal situation. Every word we've seen before.
So
Acts begin upon the shore. Ruruhu did. Again,
so
fellow fronted.
probably Ruru who started killing people with an axe. He began chopping it up.
So he killed the people, so they came to the place of Nango. Maybe those. Oh, that's just the one who came from Nango.
Yeah. I agree. That warrior from Nango.
So that Ruruhu fellows started fighting on the beach. Yep.
We were wrong.
We were. I love being wrong. It's one great way to learn.
I almost said he came up to Nango, but I doubted myself. I should have disagreed.
Yeah, you should. This Kamua is describing an in the text, not origin, but an event here.
But it's not that easy to know, even when you know all the words, and that is actually the point. You might think knowing every word in a language means you're going to understand it. No.
And I should keep better track that Mekania is the one from Nango, not Ururuhu.
Well, it could have been he was talking about your translation seemed or interpretation seemed possible to me.
Yeah.
And I obviously endorsed it. So what we get here is so that Ruruhafel started fighting on the beach.
The axe begins. That means start to fight. That's great.
What do you think he's fighting with? So they have these spears, shields, and then axes. That's my guess. And that the spear is a bit flimsy for hand-to-hand fighting, but probably pretty effective if you just strike somebody with it. So
this one axe is for close combat.
So I saw this movie when I was a kid called Shaka Zulu, and I'm
There
hoping
it
that
is. Second one.
yes, right. So one of the things that my understanding is Shaka Zulu greatly changed the warfare of his area because they would throw spears at each other, but they were far enough away they were easily dodged, and he
Yeah.
made the spear more deadly. Huh. It says Oceania, just neat. Okay, so I
Yeah.
think that what's going on is probably they have spears that are
Long range.
this is a harassment tactic, sort of.
Mm,
Um, and that the real work gets done with an axe. And you might say, why an axe and not a sword? Well, maybe they didn't have swords. They did have sword-like things out in Oceania. I remember seeing an exhibit I described, and at both the Peabody at Harvard and the Bishop in Honolulu, basically where you get kind of like a club with shark teeth looking things in it. It's
mm,
sword-like in shape or whatever. But you can think that axe would be a pretty great weapon. You get something heavy on the end. It's like a club, but it also cuts. It's pretty good.
but then most of the length is made up of wood instead of metal, which is hard to come by and hard to deal with.
Their axes were certainly made of stone. They were
Mm-hmm.
certainly not made of metal. And in it, what you find is indigenous cultures that still in the Pacific that still practice a lot of their traditional practices. They'll still have a metal um, machete or something like that. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
easy in the modern day, especially going back to how we think we're so smart, and that it's easy to take for granted how prevalent metal is in our environment. It's so prevalent that you might even eat food from a can and then just throw that can away or put it in recycling. Like the can isn't valuable to you, just the food is, which is wild if you understand how hard it is to get metal from the earth and purify it and all that. So likely it is a stonehead axe, and
Mm-hmm.
making a stonehead axe is still quite complicated. And the stones you use, once they're messed up, you can resharpen an axe. You can chip things off stone too. I'm not a great
Yeah, yeah.
lithic person, but
I guess not terribly easy, but there's a skill involved that you can learn.
yes, so they could do it, but it's a deal. So you might understand why it would be hard to find the right stone to make something longer or bigger or whatever. And particularly if you want to put a heavy enough stone to smash somebody, it may not work well on a bamboo spear. So we have an idea why the axe is useful. All
Right.
right.
Just missing Votua.
Do we
Votu.
already know Votu? We don't.
Mm.
Let's see if we can
Vopulu.
guess based on anything
View.
else. So they went off, caused
Call it.
Votua Mekinia. Now, I believe Ngokolo, unless they say that Mekinia fellow, he killed the person. But I believe he said something
People.
like,
I think this is going to be plural with the na. Maybe not. We have Natinoni in the last one, and it's that Ruru. Okay, actually, let's go back to 8.2. So that Ruru fellow, Iruru Hungokoro, seems to all be together there. The subject being mentioned last, he acts began upon the shore. Okay. Started fighting on the beach. And then Kozaviru so that he could just kill people probably. I think that Natinoni is plural in meaning, but it's left untranslated. Kill some folks.
going up to this,
Uh-huh.
give his men time to attack.
Nana. Ria Nana Tinoni Korea. Okay. Kole
Here,
Ranja.
Navarene is interpreted as plural too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wonder if na doesn't carry singular and plural information. It is quite literally just marking that common nouns follow.
I think it's plural. Do we have any clearly singular nas?
Oh, heck yeah, the majority of them.
Okay.
I have been keeping track of this because I have reasons.
I believe there was N lenition in Hawaiian, right? So like
Like
let's
what?
drink. I just wonder if the na, which has a long vowel, comes from nana.
We get
What's the
none of that.
Was it N lenition? Maybe I'm. misremembering.
I,
Drink is
I believe there are examples. I just can't think them off the top of my head. If it comes between like A and I, you might get a lenition.
okay. But let's stick to this text for now. That
Okay,
votua is the only thing
so
we're missing.
is votua.
What could it be?
Uh, I think something to do with kill. Come out. Oh, come out.
Vavotua.
I
Could
immediately.
be cause. So with the causative prefix there, it could mean something like cause yourself to be seen, cause us to see you. We don't really know what votu cause yourself to emerge. It could be many different things.
As
Yes,
soon as
good.
I saw votu, I kept thinking I've seen this in Robiana, although it's not giving me any evidence there. Is it? Voti kind of means different. This voti business in Robiana is
Voti votikaindi. That's nice. Other, yeah, differ, other. Okay.
votua.
Do we have more hits for VOTU in the spreadsheet? Ooh, good. Started to come down.
Come down.
Is Toka the big? No, Pondalai. Okay.
Toka and Roviana help. So I don't know what it means here.
Razavotu. Ooh,
Gazavotu for sunrise or something, right?
small island. So they went out to the small island to wait while they dried the head of Mechania. Yikes.
Ah, spoilers.
Yes.
Gazavotu, the giant jumped out of the forest. So Gazavotu we used for jump or something. But I know Gaza means jump or ascend or something like that because I believe Gaza Rimata is sunrise in Roviana.
Okay. Just look for sunrise. Yeah.
Gaza. Ah, of course it's I forgot what the S is equal. It's Gaza
You
Rimata, not Gaza Rimata. Okay.
oof.
Too
Let's
much
look.
Ghanongga.
Hold on. Let's look for Gasa there. All the other Gasas. Gasa. I guess it would be. What's going on with that UOF thing? That looks like an error.
Where?
Oh, we just in the find window when you were inputting Gasa, put a space. GASA space. Oh yeah, UOF, that very last one. What is that? Okay, that makes sense. Asau. East, the direction of sunrise.
Yeah, Kali Gaza Rimata.
Asa Turu jump. How nice. Jump up,
Turu
leap.
means stand.
Asa. All right. Asa Votu is leaping out. So Votu is going to be emerge, I bet.
Jump, leap, something like that. But we get
So,
we get Votu.
so not rafter. Oh, that's a different vowel. Never mind that. The sun rises. Asa Sarimata. Oh, is that mata connected to eyes for the sun? It's the yeah. You've probably said it a bunch of times. Langit mata or something.
Yeah, so Langit is sky.
A langit sky. All right. The day eye.
It is the eye of the day. That is correct. Let's see if we can find any evidence for this in Austronesian Comparative Dictionary.
For the votu or the raza or which one?
Just for the
Sky eye.
sky eye, Rimata, because we get that in both languages, right? Have we seen Rimata at all in our
Recall seeing in this.
Never. Okay, well, we'll still check the etymology right quick. The finder list here, we want day. You're going to be towards the bottom of DA.
Yeah, you might go to DE and just scroll up. Okay, day. Rakani. Drangi.
So I think it might have come from Wari. Although I think the R deleted. Piusi Drangi. Drangi Mata. think the dr, something here would have to have become r. The ani. Yeah, I don't know, but I do suspect that it is eye of the day. That is what I think happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my guess. All right, let's see if we can solve a few more of these words before we move on. As far as votua,
Come out. So va is essentially give, but give emerge it. Hmm.
votu might be something like out.
Yeah, let's see. We had jump out in raza votu. Cause out. Okay, maybe va votua is get it out of there, rudely referring to like his keister. Get your butt out of there.
It's Kiesler. I agree. I think votu is some sort of out or exit type thing. I'm gonna put out.
Yeah, I like it.
And this is actually a pretty good example of why it's different out.
Yeah, yeah.
We might even call this a verb. You okay with that? That didn't freeze, dear
No
listener. I was waiting to see
strong
Tyler's
objection.
reaction.
I'm surprised, but I have no objection. It's got. We did say if it's got the verb morphology.
I actually think that's the reason. What really is going on is that whatever gets the verb morphology, and that out isn't necessarily a verb, but anything that gets a verb morphology becomes a verb.
The thing is, by adding a causative prefix, you could verbify non-verbs.
You could. So I suspect that out without the object agreement,
Yeah.
or without the causative.
Get your butt out of
You could
there,
probably be
Mechanica.
out, but you probably couldn't like get it out. Yeah. So now what we've got going on in the story, by the way, is that Ruruhu started fighting on the beach and then came up to Nango, and they were calling out, "Come out, Mechania man! The men are killed. Come out, Mechania fellow!"
Panja to Suveremua.
Now
You're
here we
staying.
have
Where are
za
you?
as an
Where?
intransitive subject, correct?
Na or za? What'd you say?
This za right here is an intransitive subject.
Men are killed. Okay, that's wonderful.
This is very interesting. I'd expect some sort of passive morphology. Nothing. It looks like the men kill. Now, what could be going on is that viudu is what they would call like an anti-causative verb. So in English, we have these, for example, the word break.
Yeah.
I broke the window broke, right? So, you know, Ruruhu killed the people were killed. It'd be more like Ruruhu unalived the people are unalive. Something like that. So that's why it's not this translation is looking a little weird. It's because we actually have other words for kill, and this one means something like it, but not quite. Yeah, I think that's what.
Then there's this one we saw when we were scanning for Panja, I think. Where are you up here? They said.
Oop.
The they again is interesting. It's probably just Ruruhu talking. Why do you stay? Mm.
Aizavai. Aizave. So we felt already that we've got this. This is a smashing of the different question words we've seen, and it amounts to why. I am tempted to just not deconstruct it and call it why. I think it's actually like what, how, where, something
Let's
like that.
yeah, let's create it, and then you can let's show again the linking in the lexicon. Why come you up here?
How do we link it?
Okay, go to create the entry and then go to it. And I think it's relatively high. You say components. Click in that field. In the there you go. And you get the ellipsis one. Then you can link it to azae, aeza. Actually, we haven't got it on, but we have vei. So we can link it to vei. There you go. And just say that this is a component of that word. Then if you go to that vei entry, it lists its derivatives. So you don't have to analyze everything in the text. Certain lexemes, you can just break them down this way.
I had
Then
never used that component feature before.
it's neat. Whoever reads your dictionary, whoever reads your work later on, will then be informed about the connection. But you don't have to break everything down to the minutest part.
So we've got several two pause here, but I think I'm just going to call this two singular possessive, like tamu, but it's a little different, and I'm not going to explain the difference.
Ooh. Mu is quite close to it as well. Something added on to
Oh
it.
yeah, mu, muna, tamu, mu. It's undeniably related to this stuff. But what it all means,
Mm-hmm. Tuvereste, panjatu. What do you make of this hu in 8-4?
as
As why as ascended and stay of yours?
why your ascent, your stay.
I think it might be more connected to the speaking root. Tell us why. Why do you say?
I could see either.
Mm. Well, we don't need to sort that out. It's just something to ponder.
This is something we got to put in brackets.
They said.
They said to him.
So I was puzzled by the plural marking, plural agreement for one of the heroes. And it occurred to me a couple of minutes ago that in Hindi, the way you show respect for elders, parents, and such is you give them plural agreement. You treat them like they're groups of people. And I wonder if something might be going on here.
Well, we certainly used to do this in English, which is how our second singular came from the second plural. Out of politeness stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I would say plural. But there's something really interesting going on historically. We can see already that we know what kamu means. Second person plural. No, kamu, we aren't seeing it here. I mean, if we do, we see it as gamu. But
Yeah, we have seen it.
but in Austronesian and Maleo-Polynesian, kamu meant second person plural. Yet in a bunch of these oceanic languages, you still get a version of kamu for second person plural, but for a lot of the second person singular agreement stuff, you get mu from kamu. So what you're saying did happen at some point, no matter how much it was still active at the time this story was written. All right, well, I hate to put a pin in it when we have gotten to such an interesting point, but alas, I think our time is pretty much up. So I am going to put a pin in it, and I'm going to try not to think about it too much before we record next time. Anything you'd like to say, Tyler?
Well, let's just look at 8-5. Let's make it say they said to him is all.
I said,
No, in the word gloss there. I think in another case where we saw that form, the person was mentioned, but here the knee is clearly indexing a person. Not very inspiring final words, but that is what I've got.
perfect. All right, I will see, or I guess the viewer will see us on the very next recording.